Welcome to this edition of the Government News Brief for Wednesday, October 5, 2016. In the news, unlicensed river vessels would not be allowed to operate at Bartica, farming at Barnwell and Mucka being resuscitated, and Korsima village in Region 1 receives first government official visit. Stay tuned for the details. Thank you for staying with us. I am Renetta LaFleur. Here now are the details. The Maritime Administration plans to establish a permanent presence in Bartica to tackle the operations of unlicensed river vessels. Namila Henry Rowe reports.
Harbour Master Acting Michael Tennant says the issue of uncertified personnel and unlicensed vessels operating in the Mazaruni and Essequibo channels is intolerable. Unlicensed operations are more prevalent around Bartica on the Mazaruni and Cuyuni channels. According to Tennant, personnel from the Maritime Administration will be working every day to identify and report those unlicensed operators.
We have Captain Metallodza, who's our point person, and I have instructed him as of today. He is to intensify the efforts of the Maritime Administration Department of ensuring that vessels that are operating the waterway, once he recognizes them, once he knows them, to call them, let them know they have to have their vessels certified, hence we're going to stop them from operating.
If operators fail to license their vessels, they can be charged and placed before the court. The fines for operating unlicensed vessels are $1,400,000 for uncertified captains. Tennant says persons must be trained before being licensed.
He has to undergo some form of training, which will be done on board the vessel and by the other senior persons who have such knowledge. Captain Metallodza, from time to time, will have classes with these operators. If and when he is satisfied and they make an application, that application is then forwarded to the Maritime Administration with 2 passport-size photographs.
Random checks will also be made after licensing, and if the requirements are not met, the operator's licenses will be revoked. The Maritime Administration Department of the Ministry of Public Infrastructure is responsible for regulating and monitoring the operation of all vessels on the waterways of Guyana. For this Government News Brief, Namila Henry Rowe.
Residents of the small indigenous village of Korsima in Region 1 gets first visit from any government official. We have the details in this report.
Minister out in the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs Valerie Guidalo is the first Minister of Government or high-ranking government official to visit Korsima, a village in Region 1. Speaking with Gina, Minister Lowe says her trip to the isolated village was a rough run through the jungle. She says her intention is to ensure basic services are provided to the 70-plus people living there. Residents of Korsima only speak their native Warao language. The minister says that no one in the village has ever attended school, but measures will be put in place to address this. She pointed out that she is keen on ensuring that everyone in the village is given the opportunity to learn the English language.
I have to discuss yet. I have to make sure that Minister Rutnarai knows this. I'll send him a letter, and Minister Ali Cock and I will discuss it. English language is the universal language, and they have to, they have to learn it. So we have to start there from A, B, C, and the adults, when it was interpreted, if they would like to learn too, they say it's good. It's good. They're willing to learn.
Residents have to travel several hours to Whitewater Village if they are in need of health care. Babies are born at home, and most illnesses are treated using traditional medicines. Basic needs such as electricity, telephone, and potable water are absent from the village. Minister Lowe said that in collaboration with other government ministries, relief will be brought to the community.
We have a challenge there, and we need to look into it as quickly as we can, just to make sure that we have all our citizens on our radar so that we know how we're going to help them to enjoy this good life that we want everyone to enjoy.
The visit to Korsima was part of Minister Lowe's broader visit to Region 1. Isaiah Braffett, the Government News Brief.
Guyana's permanent representative to the Organization of American States, OAS, Ambassador Dr. Riyad Insanali, presented his credentials to the Secretary General of OAS. Tiffany Rodias has the details.
Ambassador Dr. Riyad Insanali is a career diplomat who was appointed as the permanent representative to the OAS earlier this year. On September 30, Dr. Insanali presented his credentials to OAS Secretary General Luis Almargo at the OAS headquarters in Washington, D.C. The Guyanese diplomat reiterated government's commitment to upholding the principles of the OAS.
Permit me, therefore, to reiterate the firm commitment of the Government of Guyana to upholding the principles established by the OAS Charter, fully cognizant of the virtuous circle we are all seeking to close, that of democracy, human rights, multidimensional security, and integral development.
Initially formed in 1889, the first International Conference of American States was held in Washington, D.C., October 1889 to April 1890. The 9th International Conference of American States, meeting in Bogota, Colombia in 1948 with the participation of 21 states, adopted the Charter of the Organization of American States, the American Treaty on Pacific Settlement, Pact of Bogota, and the American Declaration on the Rights and Duties of Man. The Secretary General, Luis Almargo, says Ambassador Insanali's assistance will be of value to the OAS.
You are very well prepared for this post, and your help will be extremely invaluable.
Ambassador Dr. Insanali previously served as the OAS representative in Trinidad and Tobago. He was also an advisor to the previous OAS Assistant Secretary General. He began his diplomatic career in 1990 at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a senior foreign officer. The Guyanese scholar is also the holder of a PhD in languages from Harvard University. For the Government News Brief, I'm Tiffany Rogers.
Farming is being resuscitated at Barnwell and Mucka on the east bank of Demerara. Paul McAdam tells us more.
Barnwell North Mucka is a farming community of more than 400 residents. For many years, they had complained of poor drainage that forced them to abandon their farmlands. Recently, the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority undertook drainage and irrigation works to bring some relief. Senior engineer of the NDIA, Dave Hicks, says farmers are now returning to the lands.
We found that the entire drainage irrigation system was completely highly vegetated with trees growing inside, the dams blocked and so. We sent in a bulldozer and an excavator. And after cleaning about 13 channels, including the main channel number 3 canal, we found that even during the rainy period, we got a significant flow of water from the land. In areas where were completely flooded, even during the dry season, we are now dried.
The NDIA has also committed to maintaining the drainage system of Barnwell North Mucka with excavators and manual labor. This will cost some $6 million annually. Chairman of the Barnwell North Farmers Group, David Samuel Joyce, says this is good news for the community.
We start seeing greater emphasis since the new administration coming to power. At least most of the dams are already blocked up and so on. They gave bulldozer. The bulldozer clear at least about 14 or 15 dams clear, so that farmers who they abandon the place could at least get a chance to come back and start doing the farming. The area consists of the Barnwell North area consists of small farmers on 1 acre plot. Most of the farmers are mostly cash farmers. Just be talking about plantain, cassavas and so on. And we have a lot of guava and mangoes and so on. And a lot of people also do chicken, swine and cows and so on.
Meanwhile, the NDIA has committed funds to build a sluice or install a pump at the head of the number 3 canal in the area. The design is now being processed. When completed, this installation is expected to bring further release to the community and surrounding areas as housing expansion continues along the East Bank corridor. Paul McAdam for the Government News Brief.
Region 3 has completed all of its capital works program budgeted for 2016. More from Delon Sanko.
Regional Executive Officer Region 3 Dennis Jaikaran says all of the budgeted infrastructural work has been completed and the region is now monitoring the quality of work before final payments is made to contractors.
Well, infrastructural development based on the 2016 budget, I can proudly say that we are 100% complete with that up to this date. Whatever payment is to be made is what you call retention, and that is a normal thing when you do a contract. So you give them a period of time after the contract would have concluded, and then you do a retention for them, and then you pay them when you would have done your final assessment of the project. So physically, we would have completed all our capital projects or infrastructure this year.
Jaikaran says the success of the region was possible because of the commitment to ensure that the quality of life improved for residents of the region.
I want to say that over the past 15 months, we have seen tremendous improvement in this region. And as REO of this region, I think from my assessment, the good life would have been there for all. We want to build on that. And some of the things we have upgraded very many roads in this region. We have cleaned very many canals, drains, infrastructure. We have maintained school buildings. But basically, we would have been able to do the things that are necessary to enhance the life of people.
31 million was spent on developing bridges in Virgin Union, Bellevue, Farm, Canal No. 1 and Potentia. 47.6 million was spent on rehabilitating roads in Potentia, Wakenham Island, Good Fortune and Stewartville. For land development, some 18.8 million has been expended, with some 18.6 million for furniture and equipment for education and rehabilitation of education buildings at a cost of just under 114.5 million. Delon Sanko for the Government's News Brief.
Today is World Teachers Day. It is an opportunity to acknowledge our teachers and say thank you for their significant contributions they make in our classrooms and communities. Celebrated in more than 100 countries worldwide, World Teachers Day was established by the UNESCO in 1994 to recognize the role of teachers in society. The responsibility for educating future generations is not a light one by any means, so we must show our support for these dedicated and important people, not just on Teachers Day, but throughout the whole year. Gina joins Guyana in wishing all teachers a happy Teachers Day. That has brought us to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on Gina's website. Gina has an active Facebook page, and we encourage you to visit and like us so you can be informed as the news unfolds. Do join us again tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. Until then, I am Renetta LaFleur. Thank you for watching.